My name is Gail Betts. I'm the librarian for the School of Social Work. It's totally possible that I have met some of you in your previous classes or in other classes that you're taking this semester. This PowerPoint is going to be focused entirely on finding qualitative research. So it's a little bit more specific than other things you might have seen in the past. Um, However, here's my name and my email. Sorry. At the bottom of the screen, you've got my name and the library's website. You can find my contact information on the library's website. It's also going to be on the last slide of this PowerPoint, and I will show you some other ways to contact me. But qualitative research, so this is strategies for an effective literature search. Some things that we're going to talk about. We're going to review useful resources found on the library's website, identify databases that can be used for locating qualitative research specifically, and develop effective search strategies for locating scholarly literature. So a couple of library databases to mention. First, PsycInfo. If you have been here in the MSW program, in other psychology undergrad programs, etc., you're probably already familiar with PsycInfo. I talk about it in 670 if you've taken that. This covers literature in psychology and the behavioral sciences, as well as psychological aspects and of related disciplines. So there's a lot of social work literature in PsycInfo, and there are a couple key pieces in PsycInfo, some tools that make it really a lot easier to find qualitative research specifically. SocIndex is another great database for social work research. It's a lot like PsycInfo. It's smaller in its scope, so there are less journals in SocIndex, less articles, but it's a little bit more focused on sociology and related disciplines. Scopus. Scopus is a really cool, large, interdisciplinary database. It does some really unique things that other databases don't do as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit about Scopus so that you can get a sense of what that would look like. And the last two, we've got ERIC. ERIC is a lot like PsycInfo and SocIndex in that the interface is from a company called EBSCOhost. So the interface looks very much the same as PsycInfo and SocIndex. The difference is that ERIC covers education journals. So if you are doing research on educational topics, school-based topics, etc., ERIC is a really good place to go, and it's not the kind of stuff that you would find in PsycInfo and SocIndex. So I totally recommend ERIC. The last one is PubMed. PubMed is sort of a national standard for biomedical research and health research. So if that is something that is pertinent to your research question, I would absolutely search PubMed. You're going to get a lot of stuff right on the cutting edge, a lot of seminal work in PubMed. It's through the National Library of Medicine, so it's a very reputable source. Search process. So you want to develop a focused research question. If your research question is fairly narrow, that's going to make the search process a lot more efficient. You want to identify the major concepts within that question, and then develop a list of alternate terms, so synonyms or related words that you would consider to be synonyms in a particular context. Combine those search terms using and or. And is going to be across concepts, so when you want the overlap between two concepts. Or is when you have synonyms, and I'm going to give an example in a minute. But or would be something like youth or teenagers, where I would consider those two words to be synonyms. After you have your list of terms and you've combined them with and or, then you're going to want to apply limits to your search results. So different databases have different ways that you can limit the results. And that's one of the main reasons to use one database over another. So some limits, for example, that you could use are age, study design, language, publication date, etc. You're then going to analyze and evaluate those results. So after you've put in all of your keywords, you've looked through the limits, you've applied what you need, then I would go through and look at the results and see if you actually captured relevant literature. This process can be super iterative. So if you don't find exactly what you're looking for in the first, second, third try, that's not you. It's just a matter of figuring out what terms get at the concepts that you want, what terms other authors have used, what the database has and what it doesn't, that kind of thing. So don't panic if you're not seeing it immediately. And then if it's useful, you can save your search strategy in all of our databases. So if you wanted to save it and rerun it later, or you wanted to send things to somebody, you can save your search strategy by logging into the databases and saving it for future use. All right, so one research question example. What factors contribute to academic success in African American youth living in low-income neighborhoods? So here's a table that I've come up with of key terms. So my major concepts in this research question are academic success, low income, and African American. So I've drafted some words that I would consider to be synonyms or related. Sometimes it's broader, sometimes it's narrower. And then I've listed those in the columns. And words that are in the columns, I would combine with or, because those are my synonyms. So I would say something like academic success or academic achievement or academic performance or school success or graduation, graduate. And then to combine things with and, you would go essentially across the rows. So academic success and low income and African American. And then you can see I have a few other keywords in there that might work. Minority might be a little bit too broad, but if I'm not finding anything, maybe I want to broaden out to something like minority or marginalized or something along those lines to see if that brings in new literature that I haven't found yet. So once you have your research question and your terms, that's when you want to limit to finding just qualitative research. So in PsycInfo, there's actually a qualitative research filter, like you would do a publication date filter or a language filter. There is a methodology filter that has qualitative research as an option. In other databases where that's not an option, you would essentially make qualitative research its own concept. So I would do something like academic success and low income and African American and interview or something along those lines. You can certainly do something like academic success and academic success or academic achievement or graduate and low income or poverty and etc. So you don't have to pick one word per concept. You can absolutely combine a whole bunch of them with or and then combine your concepts with and. So you could do focus group or interview or ethnography or narrative, for example. You don't have to just pick one of them. All right, let's go into one of the databases. So I'm going to choose PsycInfo first from the library's homepage. And since I am off campus, I am going to log in. I have Duo set up to keep me logged in for 7 days. So that's going to go through in a second. There we go. All right, so let's do academic success or graduate or academic achievement. And hit search. Let's do low income. And African American, American, or Black. I like to search one concept at a time because if I change my mind on one of those concepts, then I don't have to retype everything. So say I decide, actually, I'm not that interested in African American youth. Really, I'm more interested in Hispanic youth, for example. I could just swap that out pretty easily. But to combine them with and, I would say select all, search with and. All right, so now I have all of these concepts together. You can see I have a pretty good number of results, which is a good sign because I want to limit it further to qualitative research. So, first I'm going to limit to peer-reviewed. Then I'm going to do English language. It's bumped us down quite a bit. So then further down here, for this particular question, you could do age and limit to youth. The academic achievement part sort of gets at that. But you could absolutely, it looks like there's a fair amount of adulthood articles. So you could say, we could say adolescence or school age. And you can pick more than one of those. I'm going to leave it alone for right now because I want to focus on methodology. I'm going to say show more. And this gives me a whole list. So I'm going to say interview, qualitative. Let's do focus group. I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm going to say update. And you can see it's put the limits that I have in the middle here so I can see what I've got. So now we're at 77. That's a much more reasonable number. You could continue to limit. You could say publication date. You could do age and get it down further. Or you can just start looking through the titles and get a sense of what's here. So I'm going to pick let's see, this one. And as you can see, it's highlighted the words that I searched for in the keywords here as well as in the abstract. There are also more subjects down here, so you can look at, these are the words that PsycInfo is using. So these might be something that you want to click on and add back into the search if something looks particularly useful. But you can see down here we also have tests and measures that they've used and the methodology. So they did interviews. Here are the measures that they used, which they should describe more in the paper. But a couple quick notes. If I wanted to cite this paper, I could click on Cite. That's going to bring me here, and you could then copy and paste the APA citation. The other thing you can do, you can email it to yourself or to somebody else, or you can click Export. If you're someone who's using a citation manager like Zotero, this is how you would get that citation into the citation manager. So the PDF is right here. You can also click Find It if it's not. But otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward list of options. So that's finding qualitative research in PsycInfo. I'm going to go back to the library's homepage and we're going to look at Scopus. All right, so Scopus is also under selected databases. The interface you can see is different than an EBSCOhost interface, so something like PsycInfo. Let's do, I'm going to use quotation marks around my phrases as well. So academic success or academic achievement or graduate. Hit search. Okay, So obviously I have a huge number of results. I'm going to go back. And now that search is down here. So now I'm going to do Black or African American search. Same thing, go back. And then I'm going to do low income. All right. So to combine these, I'm going to do number 1 and number 2 and number 3. 266, so that's a pretty good number. Not quite as big as in PsycInfo. If I wanted to limit to qualitative, one way I could do that, you could go back to search and do qualitative or interview, etc., and then and it in. You can also use the search within results here. I'm going to search for qualitative, so that's going to look for articles that use the word qualitative just within the article set that we already had. So now we're down to 48 results. There are other limits down the side here, so you've got publication year, English language. You could also look at country or territory, so say we just want United States, for example, since our school system is different. You can say limit to. Everything in Scopus is peer-reviewed also, so that's not a limit that you'll see because everything is already peer-reviewed. A couple things also about Scopus. You can sort by date newest. You can also sort by relevance or sort by cited by highest. So say I wanted to see, what's the seminal article on a particular topic, I could sort by cited by highest, and that's going to give me some indicators. So over here, this article has been cited 209 times, for example. I'm just going to pick one. Let's do this one. A couple things to note in the actual record itself. Instead of bolding your keywords, Scopus highlights them. You also get some stuff down the side that's really helpful. So you have the cited by documents. And you can look at all of the citing documents. So if you have an article that conceptually is excellent, but you find that it's maybe a little bit older than you would like it to be, you can look at the citing documents, and that will give you a sense of what has been published since the article you originally had was published. And so that way you can sort of build on a publication date that way. Down here, we also have related documents. So those aren't necessarily newer, but those are articles that Scopus is thinking, if you like this one, you'll probably like these. And then further down, we have a reference list. So if you're someone who likes to go through the reference list and pull articles that look related, Scopus makes it a little bit easier by linking to the articles. If something is not hyperlinked, that doesn't necessarily mean that the library doesn't have it. It means that Scopus as a database doesn't have it. So if something looks excellent, I would type the title into one search and just see if we have it from another database. So otherwise, one nice thing here, export, that will get you the citation into a citation manager. You can download the citation here. You can email it to yourself, that kind of thing. So same ideas in PsycInfo, they're just called a little bit different things. But that's searching in Scopus. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. Another thing you can do, instead of searching in a database and then limiting your results to qualitative articles, you can start by looking in a qualitative journal. So you can go to the library's ebooks and journals link on the homepage and search for journals that specialize in qualitative literature. So there are a whole bunch of journals in social work that specialize in qualitative literature. You can go to their websites and look through their tables of contents and see if there is a article that matches what you're looking for. So then it's necessarily going to be qualitative in nature right off the bat. So if you need help finding something, you're not finding what you're looking for, you're not finding enough of what you're looking for, That goes for this class as well as other classes that you're taking. Please feel free to send me an email. My entire job is to work with students, staff, faculty, and staff at the School of Social Work. The best way to research me, the best way to find me is through email. So gbetz, BETZ, at hshsl.umaryland.edu. My phone number is there also. You are welcome to call me. I'm a little bit more responsive in email. If you need help on the weekends or at night, or you would rather just call the Information Services Desk, their information is here as well. You can send them an email. They are here nights and weekends as well as during the day, and there is their phone number. You can also just walk up to the Information Services Desk on the first floor of the library if that's your preference. Everyone there is very, very knowledgeable, very helpful. So that is the end of my PowerPoint. So please be in touch if you need help. The only other thing is that we can also meet one-on-one. So if you have a question that you think is a little bit bigger than just a quick email, you can send me an email and set up a time to meet. We can meet one-on-one at your convenience. So thanks for listening.